We watched Fighting Spirit Unleashed this past week, and we got a couple steps toward the Tokyo Dome shows, Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty. We saw some good matches. I can't help but think that New Japan is cutting things a little bit close when it comes to this Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty show. We still don't have a full card, and what's there doesn't really feel like a dome show. Feels like we have some good matches ahead of us, but there isn't anything about this that indicates that it could draw 20, 30,000 or more people, and we're running a little bit out of time. We still have historic crossover to come this week, and we are looking forward to that. We have World Tag League coming. I'm not sure if we're looking forward to that or not. We're going to talk about that. So with that in mind, and the news we've had this past week, we're going to look ahead to see, is New Japan really in the best position going into 2 stadium shows? We're going to talk about it over with Jeremy Finestone. I'm Steven Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. We are going to have Scott Edwards here a little bit later with us to talk about historic crossover. We're very much looking forward to that as we get closer to the event that is co-promoted with Stardom under the Bushi Road banner. But I guess that's, Jeremy, in the introduction, I talked a little bit about my feelings about this. I'm getting a little antsy now. We need to start seeing some stuff that'll put people in a baseball stadium, and I'm not sure we're there yet. But nevertheless, we had some good wrestling last week. We have some interesting stuff coming up this week. I'm getting a little nervous, though.
I validate you on that.
Thanks.
I definitely don't think this is the best Wrestle Kingdom card that we've had in recent past. I'm not super enthusiastic about it. I feel like it is not a destination show. You know, like all roads are not leading to Wrestle Kingdom. You have some stuff going to Wrestle Dynasty. And I'm not even sure, like, those are the 2 big shows that we really should be looking forward to right now. I am not wowed by the card, as it were, at this exact moment. I'm with you.
Yeah, it is strange, and some of the stuff that we have coming up for Dynasty really doesn't feel like a stadium show. I mean, they're going to have to really amp up Dynasty to get us there for that one. There's time to do it, but there's not a lot of time to do it. I mean, eventually you got to get these tickets sold, and you got to put people in this building. This is not the same as, well, we'll release a card 2 weeks before and hope they show up. Remember, they had a pretty big show. I mean, that show at King of Pro Wrestling and all that, that was a pretty loaded up show, drew 3,000. And, not 4,000 anyway. It was down 10% from the year before. This is not a hot product. And I don't think they can really lean on the idea of all these people just kind of showing up and wandering into the building because it's Wrestle Kingdom. And I hope that there are going to be some people. I went sight unseen, but because I'm traveling halfway across the world to do it. And there are others like me and things, but if you want to fill that stadium up, you got to give people more than this, especially in Tokyo, especially the people in that metropolitan area. You got to give them more of a reason. Right now, I think they just have the people that are going with the idea of it is Wrestle Kingdom, therefore I will go. That will bring a crowd that is larger than most, larger than what they usually get in Sumo Hall, larger than what they usually would get in Edion Arena, because it is their version of WrestleMania, whatever biggest show of the year. But if you actually want to have a good attendance at one of these cards, you got to give people a little bit more than what we got. And we're going to get it. There's not enough of a card on either one. There is more to come. But it just feels like we need to kick this into high gear. And you and I have been brainstorming. We're very curious to hear what Bushi Road and New Japan thinks will put people in this building. That I'm curious, because I honestly
kind of thing.
Well, what do they think? Like, what are they holding back on us, waiting to announce that they think? Because they have to be sitting there in a meeting room somewhere, just going, just wait until we announce the real main events of these, the real big stuff, right? And I'm curious to what the heck that is.
Yeah, so I think what we should do is not lock into the card that we have as it is, and we'll just run down the 7 matches that we've announced for Wrestle Kingdom. and the 3 matches that we have for Wrestle Dynasty. But before we do that, we're going to bring on the third of our 3 amigos here today, talking about Historic X-Over, and bringing on Scotty Wrestling here. Hey, buddy.
What's up? Sorry, I was late.
No worries at all. We got to give you the magical grand entrance as we quickly run down the Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty cards, as it were, because before you joined us, we Steven Conway and I have both been discussing, to relative degree, our disappointment with the card as it is so far. And so, do you have thoughts about whether it's underwhelmed you, whether you're feeling the card right now? You're coming in fresh. I want to hear what you think about this right now.
Well, I don't think Yota Tsuji versus Jack Perry is a Tokyo Dome match, so I'll start there. Among other places.
Yeah, there are a lot of buildings that's not a match for, by the way.
Yeah, that's not a Korakuen main event, let alone a
Korakuen main event. Jack Perry in a Korakuen main event, that's a stretch. But I mean, this isn't supposed to be the main event, but it's a disappointing match.
It's still happening in the Tokyo Dome. That's what I keep going back to. Every time, every time people said to me through the years, "Oh, this can't happen in the Dome." Yeah, exactly. It's like every time I've ever had a conversation with someone through the years, they're like, "Oh, well, that's not big enough for the Tokyo Dome." Well, now anything is, so it's fine. We can just put whatever we want in the Tokyo Dome.
I mean, we don't have the full card yet, and that this is what Jeremy and I were talking about. Is that we're stressing a little bit about this because they did not have a great attendance for the last big show, which they loaded up in Osaka. That Osaka is usually a good town for them. They were down 10% from last year from that show over this one, so that was a little bit nerve-wracking. And so it's not a hot product right now, and they have not announced the full card. And we were just talking about how they obviously know what the card is. They know right now. They're just waiting to run angles and do storylines to get us there. But both of us are very curious as to what they think are these matches that, once we announce these, boy, those tickets are going to fly off the shelves. So we're curious as what the heck that would be at this point. We feel very strongly there's going to be some kind of Sanada Taichi match. There's probably going to be some sort of Naito Hiromu match in some form.
That's the big one.
Right? That's probably the big one. Yeah.
And that'll make 9 for Wrestle Kingdom, and maybe one more in there.
And the Rambo and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But that's often a 5-6 hour show, so they have time.
So these are the ones that we have so far.
Go ahead, Scott.
Go ahead.
Just to say, I've thought for a little bit now that Dynasty's main event will be Okada versus someone. And I'm just gonna think, if you want to sell that building, because a lot of people are buying tickets for January 4th. I've read, I've seen that as the better selling show. The only way to bring up the 5th, I think, is you just do Okada Tanahashi one more time.
Yeah, they could do that. That's a possibility. There's a lot of ways they could go with that. I think if they can get a deal to bring Ospreay back, that won't hurt anything either. That's something that they need to do to bring matches back. But it is curious to see that now, Dynasty especially, we have a ways to go. There's really not a CMLL presence on it that's significant. And these are the brands that they've specifically said on the billboard will be part of that. We don't have a Stardom match for it yet. We don't have the CMLL presence on it. There's a lot more to come. Right now, we have some AEW guys on it. Some we are excited about, and some we aren't. But there's still only 3-4 matches for Dynasty, and there's more than half of that card still to come. And good to see Dunstan and Flaming Shark here. We will get to you guys' comments here in just a little bit. And then, they have some theories on this. Like Dunstan saying, Okada versus Oiwa would go hard if done right.
It would.
Yeah, but, and Dynasty feels like a last-minute booking due to every company being busy. But who knows? I really think they probably have all of that ironed out, just because the visas and everything else that you need to bring guys over from Mexico. I think right now they know exactly who's coming, but I'm waiting to hear what those matches would be. Should we go in and talk about this this Unleash, or do you want to, Jeremy? Do you want to run down what we have so far for Kingdom and Dynasty?
Let's run down the Wrestle Kingdom card because I know a lot of people are probably pretty curious coming into a New Japan podcast. What is going on with Wrestle Kingdom? Because that is the destination stuff right now. So we'll run through this in about 2 or 3 minutes. Half a dozen matches that we got listed so far.
So we have
one.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We have Tanahashi, the president of New Japan. He's going to be taking on Evil. I expect there to be some sort of stipulation added to this at some point because a regular singles match seems a little bit light for this, but maybe not. Maybe it'll just be a straight singles match. But Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Evil, who's been proclaiming himself the president. So there is a lot of chapters to this story still to go, I have a feeling, and that this will be the next one here where Tanahashi and Evil meet one-on-one. So far, no stipulation on it, but would not be surprised at all if there was either the hair or the presidency or some sort of silliness on the line once it actually arrives.
I keep seeing the hair. I keep seeing the hair getting cut.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're steering you towards thinking that's the gimmick.
Yeah, Evil could use a good head shaving.
Scott, are you into this match or are you not into this match?
It's fine. I don't have any problem with it.
It's got a little bit of charm.
Like
it's not a main event.
No, and it's not the main event, so it's fine.
Yeah.
If this was Tanahashi's last match, yeah, I'd have a problem, but it's not. It's he's got a year of matches left, so I'm okay.
Have him win. Let's blow this whole thing off with Evil. Let's just run it back and dial it out and just get the victory lap for Tanahashi going.
Yeah. And there's a long history with these two going back to Watanabe's Young Lion days with Tanahashi and things. So this is as much, maybe he hasn't said so, obviously, because everyone's staying in character, but this could be a thing where Tanahashi's kind of keep bringing along one of his favorite Young Lions over the years to a big match in a dome.
Mm-hmm. That seems likely.
We also have a 3-way for the NJPW World TV title. And this is an interesting one here. We have Jeff Cobb, Ryohei Oiwa, and champion Ren Narita. So this will be a sprint match. You only get 15 minutes with 3 guys there, but it might not be a bad thing to keep the card moving, and you can just kind of do it the whole thing and fast forward. But Cobb, Oiwa, and Narita.
There's a scenario, if all things fall the right way, that at the end of Wrestle Kingdom, Ryohei Oiwa is a dual champion because he got a match against Gabe Kidd as well for the strong title. And he could win both. Like, at this point, I do not see them holding off until the G1 to really unleash this dude. He could win at any point, any of these titles.
We'll see how it turns out on that one. There's a lot of ways that one could go, but we'll talk about him when we get there.
I love Jeff Cobb. I love he's getting a platform at the Wrestle Kingdom again, too.
This one I'm particularly looking forward to. IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, Doki defending against El Desperado. And, of course, this is coming back from the summertime when Desperado dropped the title to Doki. Desperado was going off to get his knee fixed. So curious to see if this is a course correction where they're putting it back on the guy they always intended to have it on, or if this is Desperado really putting over Doki strong. Either way, I'll be happy.
This is the biggest and best match I think that they can do in the junior heavyweight division, and I'm frankly here for it. I love Doki, and I love El Desperado, and I think that they're going to have a show-stealing match.
Any thoughts on this one, Scott?
I think El Desperado is more often than not the one guy I believe in most on the New Japan roster, just to go out there and deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And then Doki's been a great champion, so give them the proper time, and they're going to have one of the better matches of the entire week. I won't just say weekend, the week, because I just think that's the capability that they have, at least.
And it is a loaded week. There are a lot of shows in Tokyo that week, and I'm going to try to get to as many of them as I can, but a lot of people are having their big matches. So the competition for best match of the week is going to be a tough one, but this is certainly a contender. And as Sharks mentions here, Flaming Shark, he says, the Wrestle Kingdom matches in general seem strong. Yeah, these are good wrestling matches, but a bit lacking in star power. And that's what I was talking about. I mean, they loaded up that last one in Edion Arena. It didn't roll that well, but the matches we have, I'm looking forward to. There isn't anything, well, almost. We'll get to that one later on when we get to January 5th. But most of these I'm really excited about. What's next? Okay, so this is the all skate, I like to call it. This is where everybody in the ring, we're going to get everybody on the card. We have a 4-way, this is classic, actually, classic Wrestle Kingdom, to put on a junior tag team title match and have it be 4 corners and put all the guys in there. So we have the champions, Kushida and Kevin Knight. We have the TMDK team of Robbie Eagles, Kosei Fujita, TJP, and Francesco Akira's, catch 2-2s in there. And then Clark Connors and Drill Maloney, the War Dogs. And there's really no way this misses. I mean, look at all 8 of these guys are fabulous. So this should be it won't be long, but it should be a lot of fun while it's going.
So my professional analysis is this: I hated how they got to this match. Absolutely loathed it. But this match is going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah, this will be a good one. Next,
Scott, what about you?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I hate that they got here with I just. The problem for me is, like catch 2-2 out of all the teams technically shouldn't be here. They lost extra. Okay.
Yeah.
I watched them get pinned in the tournament final, but it's fine. You got to do what you got to do. It should be good though. So
yeah, I'm with you on every part of this. I hate how they got here, but the match itself will probably be tremendous.
I'm just happy Kevin Knight's on the dome.
Me too.
Yeah.
And we will have the Never Openweight Championship, and the AEW International Champion is still Konosuke Takeshita at this time. It'll be title versus title. But it'll be Shingo Takagi against Konosuke Takeshita. So might well be title versus title, but I know that Takeshita also has some pay-per-view matches coming, or at least one between then and now. So he might not hold that title when he gets here to the Dome. But Shingo Takagi versus Takeshita, I mean, take my money.
This is going to be great. I am a huge believer in Takeshita. I am an equally huge believer in Shingo Takagi. If neither one of these men are going to be in the main event, I am fine with the Never Openweight Championship and the AEW International Championship. This whole deal, everything, great. Let's do it. I am all in. All in. Scott?
It took Dragon Gate and DDT to give us the best match on Wrestle Kingdom. Thank God.
How about that? Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
I think this will be the best New Japan branded show match of the weekend. I just don't see anything topping it based on what we have so far.
It's another contender for match of the week, isn't it? I mean, unless somebody gets hurt early in this one, there's no way these guys don't deliver big time.
My belief in Takeshita this year alone is just like there's few that have hit at the rate he has, and Shingo's Shingo. So
well, Shingo's one of the guys. You said few people hit at the rate he does. Shingo's one of the few.
This is true.
He is in the ring with one of the few guys that works on his level.
Shingo came out with a match of the year candidate with Moxley in January of this past year. Those two in San Jose set the tone for the rest of the year of what the match
feels like 2 years ago now, doesn't it?
It does.
Right?
It does. You just said that. I was like, that was this year.
That was 9 months ago.
That was 2024.
What a fascinating year.
So you think about everything that's happened. Like Takeshita was virtually an afterthought at that point in AEW, and then he came to the G1 and he lit the world on fucking fire. Like, he was the kick in the pants that everyone needed, both in New Japan and in AEW, to kind of say, like, we got something here. Let's do something with it. I firmly believe he was the catalyst for, like, a re-energized synergy between the two companies.
Hard to believe that match came just before the Nick Nemeth, Matt Riddle era in New Japan. How about that? What's next? Yota Tsuji and David Finlay for the global heavyweight title.
I'm not into it. Like, we're running it back like the third time, and I don't care who wins. I just don't. Like,
I care.
Either one could win and either one could lose. Who do you want to win? Like, why do you care?
And I'll tell you this, I'm going to cop out on this one only because I want to know what the Wrestle Dynasty match for Finlay is. Because there's going to be one. And if it's Jay White, then I want him to win.
I want Finlay to win because he's just put it all together this year, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think he deserves the credit of walking away with the title. And the Yu Uemura story should be finished. And I don't think it should be finished with him losing the belt to Tsuji. Like I want to wait for that. And to follow on what Steven said, I also want to see what is that match for the 5th. Is it going to be Jay White? And if it is, that title's going to help that a lot too.
Yeah. And Dunstan mentions there's something about this Sujay Finlay feud that doesn't click for me. Keep in mind,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't think this was the plan. I think it was supposed to be Uemura. And that got taken away from them. So yeah, they had to kind of improvise this and put Tsuji in the thing where I'm picking up the banner for my rival. And I think that was a breaking glass in case of emergency shift. So yes, there is something missing, is because I don't think that was the long-term idea. They're doing what they can do, right? And the match is going to be good. But I am curious to see what the 5th.
They do have good chemistry, which is good.
Yeah. No, they have good matches against each other. And I'll tell you what else also, don't sleep on this, is that don't forget, Wrestle Kingdom is often the place where even champions who look very strong, if they're foreigners, they tend to lose at Wrestle Kingdom. Foreigners tend to drop their titles at Wrestle Kingdom. But remember Kenny Omega lost his title at Wrestle Kingdom when everybody thought he was retaining because they wanted to do the Tanahashi feel-good story. There have been multiple instances of, when we thought Jay White might win and he would fall at Wrestle Kingdom, they like to have the native Japanese go over the foreigners at Kingdom. So they don't do it in every single time. They don't do it in every single match. But I have a hard time believing that both Zach and Finlay are getting out of this alive. Yeah. So keep that in mind as we go through these last.
And I much rather Zach get out of it alive.
Amen. Amen, brother. Yeah. Yeah.
The way I look at it is that both of these guys are going to be on top of New Japan coming out of this match regardless. The winner and the loser, for the most part, is chalk minus the storytelling, because in 3 months, they're both going to be re-elevated to like the main event scene. And whoever wins or loses will kind of be an afterthought. So this is going to be a great match, but I have not invested a whole lot of interest in this match, mainly for that reason.
I do have to ask one question.
Sure.
What happens if the AEW ID kicks in and they sign David Finlay? WWE ID,
My goodness. You are introducing X factors here that I have not even remotely considered.
Well, I've considered it because it happens every year now.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I've considered it.
Okada was the extreme. Okay. That was enough is enough. Now it could be anyone at any moment. So,
I don't know, man. I see Finlay going to WWE more than I see him going to AEW.
That would make sense. Okay, then WWE ID will kick in instead. Good.
Yes, absolutely. Once Finlay goes back to Noah, and then he can pipeline himself that way and really just get an opportunity and a chance with WWE and prove themselves. Given he just hasn't had an opportunity to show the world what he's got.
That's what Paul is all for, isn't he? And that magnanimous guy in Connecticut that's just giving guys a chance. That's all Paul's for.
I 100% live and die right now on the idea that we're getting Jay White and David Finlay. I've waited for that match for 2 years, and if they don't deliver that on Wrestle Dynasty, I might quit this podcast.
All right.
Wow.
Scott, what are you doing? Scott, what are you doing on Thursdays coming up next year? What are you doing on Thursday?
Speaking of wanting to quit, there's a match that makes me want to quit.
Shota Umino and Zack Sabre Jr. Yeah, this needs some sauce on it before we get to the main event, because this is looking a little plain.
His hair hasn't looked like that in months.
It's very true. Yeah, it's a little bit dated, but that's an old profile picture. We're not swiping on this one. So this is Shota Umino challenging Zack Sabre Jr. for the IWGP World Title, and we mentioned it. I think again, good match. It'll be a good wrestling match. It needs something to be a Wrestle Kingdom. It's just two different things between being even a Sumo Hall match or a Budokan Hall match or an Edion Arena match and a Tokyo Dome match. And okay, but this needs sauce between now and then to spice this up a little bit. Shark is saying that it's Naito 2.0 here with Shooter. Well, I think they're going to do that. And I think that's where it's headed, that they're aware of that, and that Umino will eventually be a heel. I don't know if he will be in January, because I think they have other ideas for him until then. But I think that's coming. The seeds have certainly been planted that they're going to do the whole thing where in order to get him over as a babyface, you first have to turn him heel for a while. There's about 1 million examples of that working. So I don't blame him for leaning that way and trying.
So I'm going to play some musical chairs. Keep an eye on this image that we have here. And
Okay.
I'm going to flip to another image right here. Okay?
Yes. The people who are listening as a podcast, that he's flipped over to Shingo and Takeshita again.
Okay, we got Shingo and Takeshita. Now, we're going to move over to the Wrestle Dynasty match with Shingo and Takeshita and Ishii.
The winner gets a Ishii, yeah. So, and I was
That's
talking
crazy, by the way.
I was joking about this with somebody. I just said, now in storyline, this makes Tomohiro Ishii the smartest man in the world, because he is going to let these two beat the living snot out of each other at Wrestle Kingdom and then swoop in and take 2 belts. Genius. The man's ready. And he's playing chess while we're playing checkers.
Now, I'm going to move to the main event, presumably, of Wrestle Dynasty. Maybe not, but the IWGP title match. And let me wonder what is missing from this image.
Okay. So, So we have a special singles match with Zack Sabre Jr. against Ricochet. What is not in this image is the whole part of, if Zack Sabre Jr. is still the IWGP champion, this is for the title. That there is no mention of the IWGP title in New Japan's promo graphic for this match. So there you have a little bit there. Dunstan mentions,
but they have deliberately done in the undercard match that exact stipulation. So I think the disrespect to Shota is supposed to be storyline and completely playing in to what they're trying to do with Wrestle Kingdom. I think they're gaming the audience perception completely.
Yeah, and let's see. Dunstan says, I feel like New Japan announced this early to see if they need to have Naito versus Hiromu if tickets are selling well enough without it announced. That's an interesting theory. And then Shark says, Jay White did this a few years ago, Ospreay as well. And Ishii mega heel confirmed. So, yeah. Now, you make an interesting point that the world title is not a part of the Dynasty card. And it does.
If like, they've never introduced Shota as a possibility for a match on Wrestle Dynasty that he could possibly win and face Ricochet.
Well, no, that's true, because he's already said, and we're going to get to that when we talk about Fighting Spirit Unleashed, he is facing an emissary of Jon Moxley at Dynasty. Right. We just don't know who it is yet. So, that's what they did with that one. Apparently, if it's Wheeler
Yuta, shut down the dome. I'm done. I'm done.
I know. I'll accept some of the members of BCC for that, but
I can live with Claudio.
Claudio would be a good one, but if it's Wheeler Yuta, then I don't know what we're doing here. Might as well have Wrestle Dynasty in Korakuen Hall. It's next door.
Speaking of that Wrestle Dynasty.
Speaking of people who should be wrestling at the Korakuen Hall and not anything bigger than this, Yota Tsuji against Jack Perry. Well, Perry, okay. Let's try to be a little bit fair here. Perry did all right, and that's as far as I'm going to go. He did fine as a member of House of Torture earlier this year in New Japan. I thought he did well for him in that role. Perry's not going to set the world on fire. He's a decent enough wrestler who's got some personality issues as far as charisma goes and all that. Tsuji will probably pull something fairly good out of him. I'm not all that enthusiastic about this match, though. But to be fair, when Perry was in House of Torture earlier this year, we sat on this podcast and said, you know what? He did pretty good. Better than I thought he was going to. Mm-hmm. So maybe I ought to at least give him that break.
I'm more into this match with Yota Tsuji and Jack Perry than I am Yota Tsuji and David Finlay. I will give that credit to them.
You're more into this match than him and Finlay?
Yes, I absolutely am.
I don't understand that.
I like Jack Perry. I actually think Jack Perry is very entertaining in his role. And I think he's done the work with House of Torture in New Japan this year. And I was pleasantly surprised when I saw him in Fighting Spirit Unleashed. And I think this will be a perfectly fine match. And I hope Jack Perry loses.
Scott, thoughts?
This should be a New Japan strong match. That's my thoughts.
That's my thought too.
Not a Tokyo Dome match.
I don't disagree that it should not be at the Tokyo Dome. I'm completely underwhelmed on both of these cards so far.
Special single match.
But if we're getting it, this is exactly the kind of card like, you know what? I could be pleasantly surprised by this match. This could be, like you said, better than we thought. And I think Jack Perry is underrated.
I just don't understand why it's on this card. You just can't. You can't get I can't get past it. I just can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And listen, here's the problem for me.
He's Tony's guy. Jack Perry is Tony's guy, right?
Yeah, except when he wasn't.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
the guy that did the headlock was in this match, I'd be more. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that.
Let's go over it again. Keep in mind, Tony Khan chose this guy over CM Punk. And he punished he punished Zach. But... he punished Zach. But of the two people that are left in the company, it's Jack. It's Jack Perry. I can't even say it with a straight face. I can't even say it with a straight face.
I do want to say, I think Jack Perry did a tremendous amount of work rehabilitating himself in the eyes of a lot of fans and professionals this past year. Right. I mean,
he had a lot of work to do.
Not amazing, but like I think he's done very well for himself, because there are a lot of people that might not be ever able to come back from being on the other end of a CM Punk the way he was.
All right, so let's go into some of these comments. We have some good comments here. Shark has been chiming in.
Yeah, we'll get to the Shark comments.
And this is true. Ricochet did mention the IWGP title, so maybe they just didn't add that to the graphic, but it is part of the story that he wants the IWGP title. So it's not like they are totally ignoring the existence of the IWGP belt at Dynasty. He also says that Perry and Tsuji will be good, probably a win back for Tsuji, because I do think Finlay is beating Tsuji. That's another good point. This could be a way to rehab him. And of course, Shark says, I pretty much agree with Jeremy. It doesn't belong in the dome, but the match will be pretty good. So thoughts there as far as that one goes. And of course, keep an eye. Anyone who wins a special singles match at New Japan tends to show up later in the evening in some way. So challenging someone. That's kind of a trope.
We already went over that one. And then we got...
Yeah, Zach and Ricochet, and again, can't go wrong with this one as a wrestling match. Again, is it something that's going to draw a ton of people to the dome? I don't know, but this is certainly going to be a fantastic match. It's been fantastic every time it's been wrestled, and these guys have only gotten better since then. Certainly, Zach.
And then rumored strongly is Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd, which I'm here for, and I think if Kenny is cleared by then, will be a tremendous match. What do you guys think?
I think this show needs Kenny Omega. That's definitely
big time. Oh yeah, I mean,
he better be cleared.
You imagine if he has a setback, this would be crushing for that. Because I'll tell you what he did. Of all the people that have kind of poked their nose into this, and what I mean by that storyline wise, right? Ricochet, Jack Perry, even Takeshita. The one that felt really special was Kenny Omega coming out in Osaka. I mean, that one felt like the fans were like, oh, hell yes. They miss him in Japan, not just us. They miss him in Japan. So it would be a big setback if he's not able to make that show, but it sure seems like they're heading toward it, and that they feel good about it, because I don't think they would have hinted at it as strong as they did if they didn't feel very confident they could deliver.
Yeah. I mean, I think Kenny told me in that promo that he misses Japan. Yes. And, he signed the contract once upon a time because the elite sticks together and yada, yada, yada. But I think if he could wrestle in Japan more often than here, he probably would. Just feels that way based on that promo. But maybe that's maybe that's the point of the promo. But, that show also needs Okada and Ospreay. But
so,
I agree.
I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but there's been a little bit of hubbub and people bent out of shape that AEW is not capitalizing on Kenny Omega on their programming prior to this. And to me, I don't believe that AEW can capitalize on him, if he's not cleared. And the way that they build their programming, if people see him on TV, they're going to expect him to wrestle. Yeah. New Japan just has a different blueprint where he can come out 2 months in advance and build to a match in which you have little to no physicality whatsoever, and then get to the destination and build it differently. So to me, it's more noise and an inability to understand that the mechanism for the match building is completely different, rather than like an inability for AEW to capitalize on Omega right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally. I think that's exactly right. I think they're waiting until Kenny is very much physically ready to get involved into something violent before they bring him out in front of an AEW crowd. Because I do think that the AEW fans would certainly be happy to see him, and they'd be happy with a promo. But I think AEW wants his return to be more than that.
Yeah.
And in New Japan, yes, that was a special moment. And it would be a special-ish moment in AEW, but no, I think you hit it exactly on the head, Jeremy. I think they're waiting until he can do more.
Okay. And then the last one we talked about and danced around is that we all really want to see David Finlay and Jay White. And then the Young Bucks had the video package at Power Struggle or King of Pro Wrestling that indicated that they were going to be at Wrestle Dynasty as well. So that seems to be all of the names so far. We'll probably get some Stardom, some CMLL, maybe some Ring of Honor.
And so far, Matt and Nick themselves outnumber the number of New Japan fans that are interested in that. So we'll see.
I feel like Ring of Honor is basically going to be Sammy Guevara versus Doki for the IWGP Chicken Heavyweight.
Thud. You know, like I said, the right spot I think for the Young Bucks is probably challenging one of the tag team champions at Dynasty. Yeah. Whoever comes out of Kingdom with the tag team belts, just go ahead and have that match.
All right, so let's double back. We'll do that Fighting Spirit Unleashed.
I mean, if Matt and Nick want to skip the show and stay home, you know, down boys, you know, just you guys.
I mean, you don't want to fight back with them to for your layover in California.
Oh shit! No, no, I really don't want to hear that for 8 hours straight.
I mean, just make sure you avoid the Ontario airport for your layover.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Oh, God. Can you imagine sitting in a metal tube with those two for 8 hours? Oh, my God. No.
I mean, there's a lot of people that be their dream come true, Steven. But for some people.
Yeah, I know a couple of them. I know a couple of them. Yeah, no, that would not be mine. Wouldn't be mine. All right, Fighting Spirit Unleashed. Let's talk about this show. So this is this past week here. We did see this one in Lowell, Massachusetts, and I'm gonna bring up my notes for this because the attendance was 1,022.
Liar, lies. They
were in the balcony, hard against the hard camp.
Well, they were right down the street from me. This show, I sold my tickets the day of, for various reasons, but. I've been there when that place is packed.
Yeah.
That did not hit 1K. That was the old fashioned Japan inflate a little bit. Inflate the it was tough.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough crowd. And Matt Vandegrift and Seabass Finn started this one off. And Jeremy, you were excited about this one because of Seabass's presence, but Vandegrift did win with the Bloody Sunday finish. This is the Strong Survivor match where King of the Hill type of thing where you stay on the card. But I think Vandegrift has kind of outgrown this a little bit. He's turned heel and all this, and I think that's where we're headed because after he won the match, Zane J, who had already been on one of these, kind of stepped up and challenged him. We hadn't seen anybody really challenge for this before. It was always just a match that was announced later. Maybe Vandegrift is ready to just be on the card, you know, as just an NJPW strong guy, and they can do something else with this. So I think Zane J might beat him when they do the Long Beach thing. Either way, you know, it's fine. He's been the only guy that doing these pre-show matches. So it's probably time for him to move on to do something else. But my favorite moment, Jeremy, you were talking about making puns on Seabass Finn's name. I don't know if you heard it, but when Finn did the Olympic Slam, Walker Stewart, who I have criticized at times for blowing calls and things, came up with this one where he said that was from his favorite wrestler, Kurt Angle. So that's a fishing reference there right away. I knew you'd be proud of that one.
So, confession, I missed this match on the pre-show, and it wasn't until I looked at this slate that I realized I never went back and watched it. I never watched his ass get kicked, Seabass.
It was 5 minutes. It was fine. It was fine.
I mean, you get people on this match on the name of the guy itself, Seabass Finn. That's how you get people to watch a match. Like, Seabass Finn is wrestling? I love that name. Let's do it. But I didn't make it. All
right, let's go to the main card there. That was enough of that. And boy, if you thought that this was a low attended card, you should see that pre-show. Like nobody was there. It was crickets chirping in the crowd. We had Kevin Knight against David Finlay, and that wasn't because they put on a bad match, because no one was in the friggin' place. Kevin Knight, David Finlay was the opener here. This is just what we figured. It was a good match that David Finlay won. I mean, he's not. Kevin Knight's not going to beat him in this situation here. Knight did a lot of impressive things and looked good, but this is to put Finlay over. Basic structure, shine for Kevin Knight at the beginning. Then you got heat, you got to come back, you got to finish. It was a good version of that, but David Finlay with a solid win here. He's got to stay hot. You can't beat him now.
Knight kicked out of a couple of things at the very end that I wasn't expecting him to kick out of.
I got out of Oblivion.
He kicked out of it. Yeah. I was like, hell yeah. All right. I don't think that's his finisher. I think Overkill is his new one.
Yes.
But every time he hits into Oblivion, you're like, oh, that's his finisher. And then you forget, kind of like the Shingo Takagi made in Japan in The Last of the Dragon. Some people, how like you think about it, oh, that. And then you're like, oh, yeah, that's not actually his finisher anymore. So I thought Kevin Knight looked great. Finley's been on fire, and every match he comes out, he looks like a main eventer. Like, he just carries himself that way. And coming out, first thing on the card is like, he kind of elevated the entire show with his presence from the get-go, and I think that was the whole point, because, there was a little bit of thinness in the middle of that card.
Any thoughts on this one, Scott? Did you get to see the show? I mean, you got to see the show later, right?
I saw parts of it. Yeah, I got to see parts of it. I didn't see the whole thing, but I did see this because I like Kevin Knight a lot. I like Finley a lot. You described it well. It was a good opener. I wouldn't put the global champion in the opener when a crowd looks like that, but that's just me. Obviously, they didn't know that. Here's the problem. They never lowered the ticket prices. Ever. So it wasn't through Ticketmaster.
Hold.
Through e-tix. But I just need to point this out because I checked the day of because I knew it wasn't selling well. And I was like, oh, maybe they lowered the prices. No, they never did. And that's why no one went. That coupled with 2 AEW shows in the New England area the same week.
It's possible that this is the wrong time of year for them because they had 2 shows in the United States around this time of year last year. I went to both of them, one in Las Vegas and one up in the Dallas area I drove up for. And both of them sold. Well, the one in Las Vegas was in a small room and it did fine. Didn't sell out, but it did fine. But about 1,000. That's about all that place would hold. The place in Dallas could have held a lot more. It was a bigger arena and 1,000 people. And that was a decent card too. I mean, Mayu Iwatani was on that. Atlantis was on that. Atlantis and maybe even Mexico. I'd have to go back and look at that. But some real CMLL stars in Texas, and still only about 1,000. It's possible that maybe November's just too much going on. It's just not the right time for New Japan and the U.S. to run shows. Maybe you
might be right. It was funny because I think NXT announced they're going to the same building in December now. And I was like, that's mean. That's just mean. Like, there's no reason to bully New Japan. They didn't do anything to you.
That's not the only one. That's not the only one. The Battle of the Valley at the San Jose Civic.
They're going
WWE
there too?
just announced they're running Raw down the street 2 days later.
See? I mean, AEW hurt them this time, so everyone's hurt in New Japan. It's very mean.
Yeah. So, I do think that the show that they do right after Wrestle Kingdom in San Jose is always such a great card because you can pretty much do whatever you want because the biggest show of the year is done, and you can just pretty much whatever. We could just give you this.
That's
Naito versus Tanahashi next year. I think we're getting Naito versus Tanahashi one more time.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
I feel like that would
effort
be
in that one.
T-shirt on or T-shirt off for either of them.
On. Always on. You're in America? On.
That's kind of what I think we might get because they always like to give us one of those classic matches. And if it's Tanahashi's last time in San Jose, I feel like you got to go something big.
Shark's mentioning this. And guys, Dunstan and Shark are having their own podcast over here about the women's matches, which we're going to get to. We have Scott, but we're going to talk about all that. We're just not at that point yet, but we will get to your comments on that. And Shark says the San Jose show has been great the last couple of years. It tends to be the biggest strong show. They do seem to take that one pretty seriously, the San Jose show, and they do tend to load it up a little bit better than most. So, all right, next match. We got to get through this. We're already halfway through the podcast. Strong openweight tag team championship. Mike Nichols, Shane Hayes against Grizzled Young Veterans, James Drake, Zach Gibson. Pretty good tag team match, I thought. This one did surprise me because TMDK had just dropped the IWGP heavyweight tag team titles, and here they drop the strong titles to Grizzled Young Veterans. Now, I'm a Grizzled Young Veterans fan. Now, I was not the version of them that was with Joe Gacy and NXT. That was a bad gimmick. You let these two be themselves. They're a really good tag team that can cut good promos. I like them. So I'm happy the Grizzled Young Veterans are going to be around a little bit more. First meeting between these two teams, as a matter of fact. TMDK hit the Tank Buster and the Power Bottom. They went for the Super Tank Buster again, but just like against United Empire, it backfired on them. This time they had Grizzled Young Veterans had worked Shane Haste's knee, and that would give him trouble at key moments in the match. That was kind of the story they were doing. Drake used the scarf to choke Haste, and then they hit a high-low, which was similar to the old the Eliminator's total elimination move. Not quite the same, but similar to that. And TMDK goes into World Tag League on a losing streak. So I'm curious to see if they're coming in dejected and bummed or just royally pissed off and they're going to tear through World Tag League. Could go either direction. But as it is, we'll be seeing Grizzled Young Veterans, and they would run an angle later on to give them their first challengers.
You explained this match really well. I honestly thought this match was perfectly okay. Like, it should have been better than it was, but it was fine for what it was. When I see TMDK and I see Grizzled Young Vets and an opportunity for them to just go for it for 10, 15 minutes, I just kind of thought we get more than this. And I don't know if it was my expectations, because it was still, like I said, perfectly fine. I feel like if they ran it back, it would be way better the next time. Scott, did you catch this one?
I only saw the end of it because I wanted to see I just wanted to see them win the belts.
Well, I
learned that they weren't in World Tag League.
Yeah, that's I was hoping that we would see Grizzled. There were a couple of teams on this card, actually, I would have liked to have seen in World Tag League, but we'll get to that one. We're going to preview World Tag League here at the end. But but either way, decent enough match. I'm not trying to say it set the world on fire, but two good teams that had a good tag match for the titles. And after that, we had Lio Rush and Mustafa Ali. This was a terrific one. These two guys just they gave us exactly what we wanted from this match. They're both really good. It only went about 10 minutes. Ali worked the crowd really well, I thought, and it was an exciting match. There was one moment there, Ali went for a running power bombs, and it looked scary because Rush kind of tried to tear us out of it and landed awkwardly, like on his head and shoulder and all that stuff. But he seemed okay. Thankfully, he's you can bend him in a lot of different directions apparently, and not hurt him too much. But that one looked a little spooky. It led to a top rope miss. Ali went for a splash, missed it, and then two frog splashes from Rush. That's a CMLL wrestler, Lio Rush, and Rush got the win after two frog splashes. But it's just Rush getting his win back, since Ali doesn't have to defend or doesn't have to protect his undefeated on the Indies streak anymore. He can go around and give some of his wins back. That's what this was. Good 10-minute match.
Yeah, high speed affair. Leo lost to Ali back in Resurgence back in May, so they ran this one back. And I think both of these guys should be in the best of the Super Juniors in May. And I'd be surprised if Mustafa isn't. I'd be pleasantly surprised if Leo is.
Okay. After that, we had the West Coast Wrecking Crew and Dirty Work. And after this feud has gone on for a very long time, and this it finally feels like it ended. And it was an interesting finish, but it was not a real great match. It started with a brawl all over the building. The most entertaining part of this was a completely uncooperative woman in the crowd who would not move when they wanted to throw somebody into the seats. She would not high-five Tom Lawler afterwards. She was having absolutely none of this. She was going to sit in her seat, come hell or high water, bodies flying all around her.
Show.
She was. They were chanting for the whole thing. Lawler ended up putting Nelson through a table. It was a tables match in the first part. Then it was a submission match. After that, it would seem like the baby faces would have the advantage here in the submission match, but they ended up beating up Rosser to the point where he tapped an absolute gusher of a blade job. He was pouring blood. And Lawler hit a Kimura superplex. That one looked pretty cool. But this never really took off. And the brawl all over the building, the tables match was mostly outside the ring. Then they went inside the ring for the submission stuff, which the story was mostly just Fred Rosser bleeding all over everything. And then they put the STF on Rosser and a key lock on Lawler, and Rosser passed out for the submission. So we went into the strap match for the last man standing portion of the program. And this match only went 15 minutes, but I don't know how else to say it except it felt a lot longer. I thought that this one just didn't pan out very well. And in the end, it was just a straight up putting over the heels. Both Lawler and Rosser took beatings. The finish came when Nelson hit a cutter off the buckle on Lawler through a table. That eliminated Lawler. And then they just hit a spike pile driver on Rosser to win for a match like this clean. Yeah, it was a double team for the finish, but yeah, that was allowed in this match. And it was simply dirty work putting over West Coast Wrecking Crew in what felt like the blow off to the feud. And afterwards, West Coast Wrecking Crew had totally moved on. They weren't talking about Lawler. They weren't talking about Rosser. They just challenged Grizzled Young Veterans. So after a couple of years, or probably 3 years, of Rosser, Lawler, and then this turn with West Coast Wrecking Crew, feels like this one's finally in the books.
Scott, did you catch this one at all?
No, but that explanation made the match sound longer than it probably was.
Sorry.
I feel bad. No, it's not your fault. Not your fault, Steven. I heard about this one. That was the joke.
I just
it was not your
fault.
fault.
You up in case you had something to say because I wanted to close this one out when you were done.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I don't say this lightly, okay? But this may have been the worst match I've ever seen from each of these four guys. And I love these four guys. I think Lawler and Rosser have done tremendous work against each other. I think West Coast Wrecking Crew are completely underrated. But this match was a mess. They did an unholy amount of damage to each other, and I feel like they didn't really get what they wanted out of it when all was said and done. And I just thought it was a really bad match. Just the shits. And unfortunately, it's like you have to say that sometimes, for honesty and credibility. And I don't take any pleasure in saying it because I've seen a bunch of these matches and I want to praise to high hell all the great matches that they've had. But in all honesty, this match was not that. And I don't recommend anyone going out of their way to really watch it unless you want to see people just beat themselves up for inexplicable reasons.
Yeah, and Rosser and Lawler versus West Coast Wrecking Crew never really took off. Like, none of the matches at this part of the feud were that great, considering who was in them. Rosser and Lawler had some good stuff against each other, and we've seen Isaacs and Nelson have good matches, but Dirty Work and West Coast Wrecking Crew, this one, the one before that set this up, just never really kicked in. Dunson said this feud was a waste of time. The fact they did this in West Coast Wrecking Crew still can't be in Tag League of all tour of all tour is sad. I'm assuming he means the World Tag League Tour. Are we that broke, Rocky? Like, we can't afford to bring these guys over. Good question. Well, I mean, that ain't Rocky's decision, believe me. I did. Next up, we had this one. This was the number one contender four-way match for the Strong Women's Championship. So we had Anna Jay, who just was in 5-Star Grand Prix. We had Trish Adora. And then we had one of the best tag teams on planet Earth in this against each other. We had Hazuki and Koguma. Now, Jeremy, you mentioned something last week that made me rethink this. I thought that actually of all the people, Hazuki was a bit of an underdog in this one only because she had the match with Mercedes already. And I thought they might go a different direction. But when you mentioned that they were going to save Anna Jay versus Mercedes, that Tony Khan would save that match for one of his own shows.
Right.
You were exactly right. It was and when you, as soon as you said it, I just thought, oh yeah, he's that's very true. That narrows it down. Trish Adora is not ready yet. Might be someday, not yet. Koguma, I've mentioned this before. She wrestles at main event level, but they don't push her or present her as a world title main event type of wrestler, even though she's absolutely there ability-wise. That leaves us with Hazuki, who they will often bring to the precipice and then pull her back, and she doesn't quite win the big one. She's a bit of the Hiroki Goto at the moment in that respect, is that she wins a lot of tag team championships, but the singles championships elude her. But she's getting the next shot against Mercedes, who showed up. Mm-hmm. She was there in Boston or in Lowell. And
what a thing to maybe announce to the Boston fans beforehand that Mercedes Mone would be in attendance.
Well, we'd hate to sell tickets.
Yeah.
Hate to sell any tickets. So, but Hazuki, Jeremy, Scott, talk to us a little bit. This Hazuki's fantastic, and she and Mercedes Moné are probably going to have a hell of a match once they get in the ring, right?
I had no doubt Hazuki would be the pick, and the only reason is this: Mercedes Moné picks her opponents.
Okay,
and I saw this and I was like, she's picking Hazuki. Like, she's not. And they're sending Koguma, they're going to America. They don't want to be alone. You send her a friend with her, and you make it a match, right? Mercedes has picked her opponent. She's not sly. I know her game. I know how it works. She picks the best. Yeah. She's very smart. And when I saw Hazuki win this match, I said to myself, this is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because Hazuki's that good. The bad thing is now Mercedes Moné has to have the best match of her return, or people are going to have to ask questions because that's how good Hazuki is.
Yeah.
I've watched Mercedes Moné since the moment she's come back. She had a good match with Willow. She had a good match with Momo Watanabe on that Strong show a while back. Other than that, she had that Britt Baker disaster, which is not Mercedes Moné's fault.
No.
She also had those Sheeta matches, which were fine. Okay.
But that's where Sheeta is. Like, Sheeta's good,
I agree.
not great. Yeah,
I agree.
Sheeta's good, but she's not great. Yeah.
But if you don't deliver against Suzuki, I'm going to have to ask questions because everyone delivers against Suzuki when a title is on the line. I call her the greatest Wonder of Stardom champion title match competitor ever. She's never won them, but she's the best at them. So this is going to be one hell of a match. Everyone's in for a treat.
This is why I compare her to Hiroki Goto. Go back and watch any of Goto's challenges for the IWGP World Title. They're all
life and
fantastic matches. Every single one is fantastic matches. And yes, it's a lesson in pain. He always fails at the end right there.
That's great comparison. That is, they are the same person.
And both of them are in one of the best tag teams in the world. On the side. And they do win with that. So there you have it. It's good.
Ready to go?
She's gonna lose again, by the way. I just want to point that out. She is gonna lose again. Yeah, are you talking about that card at all? Before?
Yes.
Okay. I won't say anything then.
Yeah. Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji against Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. This one was basic. I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on a good match, but this was strictly to put over a team that's going to be in World Tag League. It was perfectly fine. It was good wrestling, but this was Taven and Bennett putting over the New Japan team here. They got to see Shingo. They got to see Tsuji. They hit their big moves. That's what this was. Good match, but strictly for New Japan to put over their guys.
And then you got to see Jack Perry jump Yota Tsuji.
Yeah, that's when we got the video. And we got a little video from Jack Perry that nobody really understood. And then the lights came up. Jack Perry was in the ring and assaulting Yota Tsuji while everyone stood around saying, "That's it? That's what they're doing? That's
drove
the guy?"
His van all the way to Boston. Can't drive his van to Japan, I guess.
Yeah, boy. Hopefully Tsuji can just go over strong in the dome there if he doesn't beat Finlay. That was the note I wrote in my notebook afterwards. After that one. Then we had Ryohei Oiwa and Kenta. Now this one was weird. It only went 9 minutes and 26 seconds. It was almost all Kenta. So
that's Kenta.
It wasn't very exciting, and we really didn't get a comeback. And my perception was that I almost want to go back and watch it again because my memory of this was that it was almost Kenta just beating him down, and then suddenly Oiwa just reversed a cradle and won the match. So it seemed very abrupt. And they also, I noticed, cut off Oiwa's music as he was going back up the aisle. So I'm almost wondering if they didn't end up a little more pressed for time than they expected. And because not only was this very abrupt, like they were almost just told to go home quick, because he really didn't even get much offense in. And then while he's walking up the aisle, his music goes off. So I'm starting to wonder if someone was tapping their watch in the back, just saying, "Let's get these guys out of here." I don't know. This was odd. Certainly didn't put Oiwa over.
I didn't like the roll-up finish, but I'm willing to just chalk it up to he's early in his on his come up and he's learning or whatever. He should be beating Kenta handily, and he will eventually. I just wanted him to beat him that way now. All right,
it's just not going to help him get over big time, but we'd see him later. Shota Umino and Tomohiro Ishii wrestled TMDK. That was Bad Dude Tito and Zack Sabre Jr. And again, this is a little bit of a preview. Although I have to say, of the two things, Tito and Ishii was the matchup that the crowd seemed most excited to see. There was a Death Rider on Tito to win, and this is just a preview match. This could have been on any house show, really. But my question to you here, both of you guys, with World Tag League coming up, Zack and Shota are in the same block. We're going to see them in the ring again against each other. Would it help if Shota Umino pins Zack Sabre Jr. before the Dome? Would it help add a little extra heat to their, not heat, but a little extra spice to the match? Do you think Shota needs to get that visual 1, 2, 3 to make this a little more interesting?
He should pin him. He should do more than pin him. He should do something to try to potentially cripple Zack before Wrestle Kingdom. Get some heat on him in some way, shape, or form. Put some pepper on this.
He's not going to turn heel before then, though. He's not going to turn heel before. I don't think he's going to turn heel before Kingdom, especially if he has a match against the Blackpool Combat Club at Dynasty.
Which will happen right after this match when he called out Moxley. Moxley had the video package, and then he was going to send an emissary to Wrestle Dynasty, and then Umino cut his promo, which said, "Fuck you, John Moxley," which did, in fact, pop the crowd. So
that cursing will always work in Boston, right, Scott?
It's true. It always does.
It
never fails.
No. What did you think? Do you think Umino needs a pinfall here before we get to the biggie?
I think he needs a lot, but I think that's a good start. I think get him a visual pin that counts in some way. Hopefully use that to elevate him a little bit more. Because listen, a lot of people already look at this main event that's at Wrestle Kingdom and they say, really? He needs a win. He needs a win. And I think showing a little bit of what's to come, in a few months from now rather than, right now is smart. But he won't go that far yet. You got to wait. But just tease it. Just give it a little tease, but also get the win. I think that's important for sure.
Dunstan says the biggest problem with Wrestle Kingdom main events at certain times is they don't have major angles. Instead, they just have stare downs too often. Some of that is that's true, and some of that's just a function of this. You've got to wait 6 months for it. Sometimes, like some years, you got to, you can't. It just takes a long time to get that to get from one to the other because the G1 winner versus the champion and all that.
They definitely need to put a little bit of pepper on that. Steven, why don't you take a drink? I will do the Takeshita TJP recap while you do that.
Go right ahead.
All right. Konosuke Takeshita versus TJP for the AEW International Championship. TJP tried to catch Takeshita off guard with his Oz-long look and spitting miss to start, but it soon became a match Takeshita caught his breath. Very similar to a G1 match. After getting misted, Takeshita hit a lariat and then to set up TJP for a Super Falcon Arrow for the win. TJP really good in this kind of match, and Takeshita was positioned strong by the end of the match. After, Takeshita took the mic, issued an open challenge for the Tokyo Dome. This is where Shingo Takagi accepted for Wrestle Kingdom, and if both are still champions by January 4th, both the Never Openweight Championship and the AEW International Championship will be on the line. And then after that, this is where Tomohiro Ishii returned to make his presence known within this title scene. There was a lot going on in this match, and by the end of it, TJP was very clearly an afterthought.
It was, but I'll tell you what, they did well enough that the crowd was actually popping at various points in the match, even though I don't think anybody in the world thought that TJP was going to take the AEW international titles. But they did well enough that people were reacting. The other thing is, Ishii's challenge is the most Ishii thing ever. After all these promos between Shingo and Takeshita, and they're talking, and they're staring, and they're gesticulating, Ishii simply walks out, doesn't say a word, just points at both of them, and walks back into the dressing room.
What a pro.
Is there more Ishii thing than that? I don't think there is.
Nope. I love Takeshita, and even a TJP match is enough to make me love Takeshita even more because he actually made a TJP match enjoyable to me.
Well, I think TJP is a really good wrestler. You don't. I know you don't care for him personally. I understand that, but
he has been booked in a way where I see him in a certain level, and New Japan has done him no favors.
All right, what was next then? Main event. Gabe Kidd, Kosei Fujita. Flaming Shark says we're all Takeshita lovers here. Yeah, it's very true. We were big fans. This match. So we have Gabe Kidd and Kosei Fujita. At first, Kidd was cutting promos while Fujita sold for him, which I thought was fun. Fujita sold great, just being thrown around by Gabe, and he just kept coming. That was the story. Gabe would beat the hell out of him. He would just keep coming. But Fujita would get in pockets of offense before Kidd would cut him off. It built nicely, 18 minutes, 40 seconds. Fujita did hit Abandon Hope, but he couldn't cover. Very dramatic. Big Fujita chance in this one. He kicked out of everything, including 2 pile drivers from Gabe Kidd. Kicked out. The whole story was almost like we had zombie Kosei, where he just would not give it up. And Kidd was just had to keep beating him down. Finally, the Madman Bomb, Dr. Bomb, finished it. But this was outstanding. I thought both of them were terrific in their roles. It was a really fun match. Kidd began to beat Fujita down after until Ryohei Oiwa made the save and then challenged Kidd for later. But these two go way back to their young lion days, Noge Dojo. They know each other very well. Fujita knew exactly how to be thrown around by Kidd. Kidd knew just how to throw him around. Terrific match, and really it's just cements my opinion that I give almost every week here, though, that Fujita is going to be the ace of that junior heavyweight division and be the next Hiromu, basically. I don't necessarily think he's even going to be a step down. And I thought like Hiromu's on the level of guys like the original Tiger Mask and Liger and Hiromu, and I think Fujita, barring injury, he's got the charisma, the talent, and the athleticism. He can do that. And this guy is so good.
One day, Taiji Ishimori and Kosei Fujita are going to have a 5-star match, and we will all rejoice. It will be amazing. I will say this. I was on the fence about how I felt about this show before this match, but this match turned it into a thumbs up card for me as opposed to a thumbs in the middle. It made the show for me, and I thought this match was tremendous. Scott,
any thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, I watch everything Fujita does for the most part because I'm such a fan of his. I think he's the difference maker that people keep talking about New Japan needing. Right? You got one. I think you got them both in the same faction. That they happen to be in the same faction. Both him and Ryohei. I think they're the guys personally.
Yeah.
Fujita's a little bit more along because I think they both benefit from not leaving Japan. Like, I know Fujita went to Australia for like 5 minutes, but like other than that, I think they benefit greatly from just staying in Japan. All the other guys, you just see them like there's hoops still with the Tsujis and the Narutos and the Uemuras and the Shotas. I watch Fujita and Ryohei, and it's like there's no hoops here. They're the guys. Yeah. They just get it. They get in the ring and they get it. And this was another sign for Fujita. And Gabe Kidd's the foreign wrestler that they're behind, and understandably so. He's very unique compared to the others through the past years, but it's why he's going to be getting the Kenny Omega match at the end of the day. You got to think of it that way. He may not have a big match at Kingdom itself, but he'll have a big match at Dynasty or wherever they want to do that Omega match.
I also think it's very smart to keep Gabe Kidd strong just in case David Finlay gets an offer he can't turn down. Somebody's got to take that spot.
True.
Too. Yeah, so
that's true.
So good stuff, and we'll be moving on to the next show there in Long Beach here pretty soon. Do we want to run down that card real quick, Jeremy?
I don't know if I have matches for that on here.
I think I can find it here. Yes, I do have it. So here's what we have, and we have Mercedes Mone defending against Hazuki coming off that one. And Scott, you talked about that one. Is there anything more to add in what you were saying about how Hazuki is basically the litmus test for Mercedes on this one?
Yeah, I have a very high bar for who I consider best in the world. Hazuki happens to be among them. It is the litmus test for Mercedes Moné. It's the prove it point. I know she had that match with her and Azumi at Secure Genesis, and she walked away saying, I want singles matches with probably both of them. Originally, it was just Azumi. They added Hazuki. And it's a match that I think should deliver. It should deliver. But, I'm always worried because it's strong, too. If it was in Japan, I know it would be a home run because Suzuki just gets that crowd into it. But I think they're so good that they'll get everyone into it no matter what.
We will also see Gabe Kidd defend that title against Ryohei Oiwa, so the NJPW Strong title in that one. Yeah. The Strong Openweight Tag Team titles, that'll be the Grizzled Young Veterans against Isaacs and Nelson. So there you go. Cool. And we will have a special tag team grudge match. This is basically a preview for Dynasty and Kingdom. So Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji on one side against their future opponents, Takeshita and Jack Perry. We'll also see a four-way match with one half of each of the teams in that junior heavyweight tag team title match. So we'll have Clark Connors, Kushida, Kosei Fujita, and TJP in a four-way. And one that's interesting to me, also Leo Rush against Hechicero in that one. So CMLL star Hechicero, that'll be terrific. Mina Shirakawa against Johnny Robbie. Now, Scott, this one screams out the usual New Japan trope of winning a singles match when there's a title match later on the show. Do you anticipate the next step will be Mercedes and Mina?
There's your Wrestle Dynasty match.
Yeah, could very well be.
Oh, there it is.
And then, of course,
Nice.
Matt Vandegrift, Zane J right there. So that is exactly where that leads. I mean, right now that all signs are leading toward Mina Shirakawa and Mercedes Mone in the Dome, which would not break my heart. That would be pretty good.
It's a bit of a shock for me, but there's a lot of people they're protecting, and they're not protecting Mina. So that's ultimately where and Mercedes likes Mina a lot, so there's that too. They're friends. They like when Mercedes went to Tokyo for, I think it was like an anime award show or something. They hung out. So like this is a match that they've wanted. This is a match that they're gonna get, and they're possibly getting to happen in the Dome. You know, there's a world where I think Mercedes Mone would love to get a certain win back, but keeping a certain someone out of the Tokyo Dome might be in Bushiroad's favor right now.
Well, there's a couple of things going on there, isn't it? We're about to talk
There's
about.
There's a lot going on.
I have
that time of year.
The tinfoil hat version of me is sitting there just saying perhaps that beating Mina Shirakawa in the Dome is a way of Bushiroad protecting the idea that they might not always have Mina Shirakawa because she's gotten over.
Well, they're definitely not going to have. They're definitely not going to have Mina Shirakawa. I can tell you that one. I wasn't talking about her, but that's
I know you're not.
Too.
Well, we got other people to talk about here that might not be in the Bushiroad.
Mina Shirakawa should just have AEW plaster next to her name already. She doesn't, but she should.
Yeah. She's getting over. I mean, you can't argue with it. I mean,
I applaud her. I applaud her. She should go for the money and the fans. The fans love her here in America.
She's trying to reach stardom, my friend. I get it.
Well,
trust me, I wish she left already because she just takes up these cards now. It's not a shot at her. It's just like it's weird.
Well, and my question on that too is like with Mina, do we know exactly how old Mina is? We're figuring late 30s ish, right?
Like
I think she's 30. Yeah, I don't know.
Somewhere in there, right? Though,
I think I looked this up. I want to say she's 38.
I think she's 36.
But go ahead and get the
per cage
money.
match.
But go get the guaranteed money.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
This is the time.
She got her moment last year as a champion. It wasn't long lived. But with the Mariah May stuff, she's become a big star in America. So success for her.
All right. So we're going to get to Historic Crossover 2. Yeah, we're going to get to Historic Crossover 2 right now. So we're going to move on to our preview of this one. I'm looking forward to this card.
Before we get through the card, can I just ask you guys a question?
Yeah, sure.
Did New Japan care? Because it sure looks like they did not about this card.
No.
This feels more like a Stardom card than a New Japan card by a long shot.
I'm having a hard time justifying $35 for this card. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, I'm not. I'm enough of a Stardom fan that I don't mind. I mean,
I'm really, you guys are walking me through this, but I'm trying to find the through line for me personally.
No, I'm enough of a Stardom nut that I'm in on this, but I understand.
Tell me on it, you guys.
$35 is steep though, even for Bushiroad. That's a steep one.
Couldn't believe they were charging extra. It's on World. Why are we charging extra? Just
Yeah, it's frustrating, but that's what they do. They do about one of these every month or two. The pay-per-view. Tell me. It's why the Lowell show was not a pay-per-view because this one is. Because that Lowell show would have been one of those New Japan Strong pay-per-views. It would have been about $20 that we always bitch about on this show that we had to pay an extra $20, and now it'll be this one that we complain about that we had to pay extra for.
You too. Sell me on this show. Let's do it.
All right, so here we go. Now we have Scott on here. Now I'm not bad on Stardom, but just to give you an idea, and I'm going to put him on the spot. About a year or so ago or something, I guested on Scott's show once, and he never asked me back. So we need to have Scott here to do the Joshi stuff because apparently I stunk out the joint. So here we go. We're going to go with the Historic Crossover 2. The first one is Aya Sakura Sayaka Karara. Rana Yagami. Sorry about that. I'm sorry about the name. So I'm going to start over. Hanako, Aya Sakura, Sayaka Karara, Rana Yagami, 4-way. Basically, Scott, these 4 are kind of sort of that generation's Young Lion class. They debuted generally around the same time. And Hanako has had a U.S. excursion. The others have been staying in Japan. I think all of them have a lot of potential. What do you see in this one? It's an interesting match to have basically all of the not rookies anymore, but younger ones in against each other.
Yeah, all the 2023 rookies that are still with Stardom, all highlighted in this match. The They like Hanako the most.
Mm-hmm.
I may disagree, but she's tall, so that, she's different from everyone else, so it's a good thing for her. This is I believe is not on the official card. It's the pre-show
Correct
match. It's weird that they're doing this. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it's just a very random match, but it's kind of fitting of a New Japan card if you think about it, because of those Young Lions-esque matches that they often do. So in that way, I kind of like that they did this, because there is a theme to it, at least fitting the New Japan side of things. I think Aya Sakura is actually the best of these four right now. I think she's been having a great little run, but Hanako will be the one walking away to win. I'm not going to convince Jeremy to watch this show based on this match. I'm just saying that now.
Well, but that's not, but it's not carrying that freight. Like you said, this is literally the pre-show match listed on the card. It's match 0. So, next one is
that's a Stardom
1.
staple too, to be fair, is a match 0. So,
and now next we have the Cosmic Angels team of Sayori Anu and Tam Nakano going up against Tomoko Inaba and Shuri from God's Eye. So, what do you see? What is this match? What story is this match telling us, Scott? Shuri is, of course, one of the best in the world. Tam is one of the most pushed. Sayori's fantastic. Tomoko is different than the rest of the group, but very talented, very young. What are they trying to say?
They're trying to tell me that I should watch this as a Stardom fan, because I wish this match was happening on a Stardom show, because they get proper time. I'm worried that they're not going to get time because they're first. That's my big problem here. But Tam is the World of Stardom champion, so I'm sure they'll get a little bit of time. It's weird. When this show is made, I thought maybe this was a preview for Tam and Shuri. They've been throwing a lot of curveballs as to who Tam would be facing at Stardom Dream Queendom. Ultimately, they did not go that way. It's a different match. It's Tam and Saya Kamatani. That being said, it's a good opener to give you an idea of what Stardom is all about. If they give them 10 minutes, they're going to have a good match. They're all incredibly talented. And again, it's the world champion here on this show. It's really weird, though, seeing Sayori and Tomoko on this. I know Sayori is a signed Stardom talent, but she still isn't to me, because she does so many other things. And Tomoko is not a signed Stardom talent. But you know what? Taka Michinoku deserves to get his prize pupil on here, too. So it should be a good match if you're looking to get into Stardom, get a taste of Stardom. I think this is actually the best match for that, besides the big title match.
All right. After that one, we will have. Now this one's all over the place. We have a 6-woman tag. This is Azumi, Mei Sarah, and Miyu Amasaki. That's from the Neo Genesis group. And then from the hate side, so the hardcore heels, what's left over of Oedo Tai with some additions. We have Kanami, Ruaka, and Rina. And Azumi and Mei Sarah, they've got a lot of heavy lifting to do in this match. Rina's really good. Ruaka is young and maybe not quite as good on that end of it. Konami can be a struggle sometimes, for me anyway, personally. Of just
Konami is on autopilot at all times.
And to me, the real future talent here is probably either Miyu or Rina. Azumi's fantastic, of course. Mei's fantastic. So I just feel like that Neo Genesis group's going to have to carry a lot of this one.
I think this show missed an opportunity by not putting Azumi in a bigger match because of her international popularity. I think she's a little more popular than others, and I know this show is not just for Japan, it is for the worldwide audience.
They don't seem to realize that, though, do they? They just
it sure feels like Azumi's getting slotted down the card all of a sudden, which is interesting. Yeah. Again, the timing of the year makes everything interesting. Because Azumi was in line for an IWGP Women's title match that felt like was supposed to be at this show. That was the whole plan, and then it just poof, gone.
So let's put it out there. Do you think that Marty Gold is a possibility for Azumi? Do you think North America is a possibility for Azumi? If Bushiroad seems a little nervous about her,
I think both are. I think both are very open. Azumi, got over for the most part she got over in her Stephanie Vaquer match on a strong show earlier this year. She got over in a Tony Storm match on Collision. So I wouldn't rule that out. And anyone that had a long time connection to Rossi Ogawa should at least be seen as a possibility. And that's someone like Azumi, who, her entire growing up was working for Stardom under Rossi. So
yeah, quite literally, this is one of the ones for the folks that aren't as into Joshi, but she and Starlight Kid is another one. Started 11 years old with Rossi?
Yeah, Azumi
training?
started 11. I think Kid was like 13 or 14 when she started.
Yeah, so very, very, very young, and basically like all their lives they've known Rossi Ogawa, and so this last year has probably been very strange for him. Dunstan has a question for you, Scott, before we move on, because it pertains to Azumi. Does Stardom really care for international exposure? It feels like they don't, since they didn't capitalize on Azumi after the Tony match, nor Mina. To me, this could go a couple of different ways, that they're just simply nervous about pushing someone they feel like they're probably going to lose. But I don't know. What's your take on this question? It's a good question.
Yes and no. Like, no, because they always have been more focused on the Japanese crowds and what the Japanese crowds care for, because at the end of the day, that's who's buying tickets, that's who's buying subscriptions, that's who's buying t-shirts, that's who's buying everything. I think a little bit more this year with your involvement with AEW, they've started to consider it a little more, but not to a major extent by any means. I don't, Mina goes over, she comes back. She goes over, she comes back. Like, it's a relationship that didn't really benefit Stardom until Tony Storm came over for the one shot recently, which, was cool and all. It's yes and no, because I don't think it's their number one or number two priority. Japan will always be number one and number two, and rightfully so, because again, that's who they're working for. So
when you're selling out your buildings in Japan, then you worry about getting over in the United States. And right now, that's not happening for either of the Bushiroad companies.
It's part of the reason that I think like New Japan should do less strong shows, because I just think like those shows will do better when they're more sparse, right? Like, people want to see New Japan after they didn't see it for a long time. It's different now. But that's just a me thing. But yeah, it's a little different now.
Okay. Next match, Scott. What do you got here? Let's see. The next one is going to be. Okay. Now we're getting into the New Japan section of the program finally. So we have
all right, basically Jeremy, sell me on this.
This is a house show match that would be on about second or third, maybe. So we have from the United Empire, Jeff Cobb, Francesco Akira, and Callum Newman facing Bolton Oleg, Tiger Mask, and Toru Yano. So. Yeah, this is a half-assed New Japan match in this one. There's no other way to put it than that. This, like I said, on a house show in Anjo, this would be second or third on the card.
There will be 3 minutes in which Bolton Oleg and Jeff Cobb will beat the hell out of each other. And that will be a lot of fun. There'll be some high flying from Akira and Callum Newman. That, too, will be a lot of fun. But this is an exhibition match with absolutely no reason for it to happen. None of these individuals are currently feuding with each other. None of these individuals have any beef with each other. This is a match in the middle of a card on a show in which you're asking for $35.
Yeah, and it just feels like New Japan, we're sitting around just going, well, who's in Japan when this card's happening? Let's just, these 6 are? All right, let's throw them on there. Yeah. That's what it felt like. Tell me I'm wrong.
I am trying to understand why. I love doing my podcast, and I will watch this show because I love doing my podcast.
All right, I'm just gonna say it. I'll say it because I know it. New Japan and some of their roster members do not care about this, and you could just see it throughout the entire lineup. That's all you have to That's all you have to say.
Contractually obligated show.
I don't know if we're going to see historic crossover.
Which they stopped doing, but they felt like they had to do it again.
There were enough people asking for this show to come back because the first one was a lot of fun. And people
wanted it last year, though.
And they finally were like 2 years later, they're like, here you go. Don't ask us for another one.
It was a leave me alone.
Here's our first mixed match of the night here. So on one side, we have the purest of the pure baby faces. Can't get more baby facey than these baby faces. The biggest baby faces that ever baby faced. On the one side, we have Hiroshi Tanahashi, Ryusuke Taguchi teaming up with the Stars faction, which is sort of the Stars version of Stardom version of Hantai. The all around good guys. Hanan and Saya Ida. So that's on the one side. And on the other side, you have the heels of the heels. We have Drilla Maloney, Gabe Kidd, Saya Kamatani, and Natsuko Tora. So what we have here is the first match that makes me nervous. And I've mentioned this before, is that, here's why I get nervous about it. And it's been months, and Gabe is doing a lot better. Okay. This is me looking right at the game. Gabe has been doing better. Gabe has been very reckless with opponents in the past. And Hanan is all arms and legs and weighs about 125. Saya Ida is, she's got like a powerlifting type of physique, but she's about 5 foot nothing. And the idea of Gabe going off script on this thing gives me the willies, because sometimes he does stupid, reckless things in the ring. If he doesn't do that, and he hasn't for a while, as long as he doesn't do that, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. But I won't breathe fully deep breaths until this one's over because of Gabe. Drilla, I'm not too worried about. Saya Kamitani is being heavily pushed right now. I'm not the biggest fan of hers, but Natsuko is, Natsuko is the leader of hate. And so, we've got some big names on the Stardom side. We have Hiroshi Tanahashi on this side. So we'll see how it goes. Scott, tell me about what your thoughts are on this one now that I made my diatribe.
Oh, God. It's a match I look at. I'm like, man, I don't want this. I listen. I don't think it'll be that much of a worry, because the matches where you're gonna get the intergender wrestling are later.
And with people who are probably fine.
There's only 2 after this that they have really intergender, I think.
And we'll talk to them.
Well,
3.
Clark Connors has told me that will be one, and one of them is an intergender match, and the other's the main event.
Yeah.
This is a fluff match.
Yes, it is a fluff match. Tanahashi, I look at Tanahashi and I'm like, you're the man that's making all these people do this, and I appreciate it, because I know a lot of these people don't want to do it. So good for you. It'll be 10 minutes max. Kamitani's probably the one that should be winning, because she's the only one featured in something big for these 2 companies right now.
Yeah, she's main eventing Dream Queendom against Tam, right?
Yeah, so you kind of want to build her up for the new eyes. That, again, that's the hope of Historic Crossover. You have new eyes, hopefully become new fans of these shows. It worked the first time. This one's missing something. A few somethings.
One good spot. That's it.
Yep. That's probably what they'll get. It'll probably be Tora hitting Hiroshi Tanahashi. Honestly, they've already teased it in Tokyo Sports, so it'll probably be that. She'll probably like missed him or something, and that will be your big moment spot that you get, and everyone goes And,
at least Tanahashi put himself in a better position than he did last time. But I hated what he did last Historic Crossover. So hopefully he'll do a little smarter job here, and at least he's working with a heel or something like that instead of smacking Micah across the face like an idiot. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll be better this time. So
now on to an oddly curious match that I think I'm kind of here for.
Great Okan defending the King of Pro Wrestling Championship in a hardcore match against Suzu Suzuki. Now, a lot to unpack in this one if you really want to, but this is the intergender match, so there'll definitely be some male-female interaction in this one. We expect there to be more on this card than just here, but certainly here. Now, Suzu Suzuki, I'm not worried about her. First of all,
I think editing. Sorry, I'm just seeing her arm cut off. I'm like, wait a minute.
But yeah, that's true. In this graphic here, they've got a bit of an odd cut here, and it does look like she only has half of a right arm. So does Khan. Yeah, both their elbows are gone. Tragic accident probably on the way there. But Great Okan, I'm not worried about him. He can work this match fine. Suzu Suzuki has done death matches with Jun Kasai. She'll be okay. She will be okay, and she probably hits as hard as anybody there in the Stardom roster. So I'm not worried about this one. I think it'll be probably perversely entertaining. I just hope they don't do too much to each other. I'm not a deathmatch guy, so this type of stuff isn't my thing. But this is one time I'm not worried about the Stardom wrestler at all. I think Suzu's going to be just fine.
One of the most curious matches on the card, and potentially selling me on this show.
You have to let Suzu go into the deathmatch bag that she retired in 2023 for this to work fully. Because like obviously I know Suzu Suzuki is not winning this match.
Sure.
But we're a year removed from her main event winning the biggest tournament in Stardom, main eventing the biggest show in Stardom. They don't see her in that light anymore, and it's very apparent. That being said, they trust her to be in this match, and they trust Great-O-Khan to be in this match. So I trust them to deliver in said match. Hardcore isn't really New Japan or Stardom's forte, so it's very interesting they've decided to go down this route in a match on a split show. But it's what Suzu does. It worked. Did once upon a time. She's good at doing the lesser hardcore match as well, not the full-on death match, but the fun. Oh, there's a table. Oh, there's a ladder, and chairs and whatnot. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You hit it on the head there. It was like both these two kind of know what they're doing. So, and as far as trusting him in this spot, that Great-O-Khan's not going to go crazy. Suzu knows how to work this stuff, and it'll be it'll be fine. It'll be probably a decent version of this, and they're very highly unlikely to just go crazy with it. So
Great-O-Khan's been at multiple Stardom shows in the past, like just as like a guest. So something tells me he has an actual interest in this, and that's why he's the one in this match. So that helps for me as well.
He'll probably work hard.
Yeah.
He won't want to stink it up. And Suzu probably won't let him. I mean, that's she's good at these. So next we have the mixed tag. We have Taichi and Natsupoi teaming up against Tekla and Clark Connors. Now we saw the angle where Clark Connors came and speared poor Natsupoi in a Stardom show to kind of set this one in motion. So just classic good guys versus bad guys here. Tekla and Clark Connors against Natsupoi and Taichi. My thought on this one here a little bit, Scott, I don't know how good this match is going to be or how good it can be. But, my thought on this one is Taichi is at a higher point in the card than Clark Connors. Natsupoi is certainly at a higher point in the cards than Tekla. It would be weird if the good guys, this feels like just a babyface finish to me.
Yeah, it has to be, because I need this Natsupoi Tekla feud that isn't good to end. It's been going and going and going for years, actually. Not months, years. It's just
going back to the Donna Del Mundo days when they were in the same faction and all that, or left. Point being, like, Tekla's not on Poi's level. And if you have a bad match with Natsupoi, you're the problem. That's just my thought on that. It ain't Natsupoi. It ain't Natsupoi that's having trouble.
Yeah. It's the direction they've gone. I know Tekla and Clark Connors are obviously very close, and they were a match to put together. And this, I will give them this. This is the most built match on the card.
Yeah.
They have put effort into building this. The problem is I am not interested in one side of it. But we'll see how it goes. Taichi's good in this role. Taichi's been, him and the Cosmic Angels have had a continuous thing going on for years now. So I'm happy it's him. They should both sing to the ring. And that is my point. I'm not asking, I'm demanding. And yes, the babyfaces need to walk out with the win, because that should end this feud. And it just makes way too much sense where Taichi's going, obviously with Sonata, Natsupoi's your Wonder Stardom champion. There is no reason Tekla and Clark Connors should be winning this match.
Taichi, of course, such a great singer, doesn't even have to move his mouth to do it. That's incredible. That's just how talented the man is. And so, it works perfectly. And again, you talk about guys that are kind of into this. I feel like, and who is and who isn't, right? But Taichi, you mentioned, has the longstanding thing with Cosmic Angel, longstanding. I mean, but it goes back a few years with Cosmic Angels. He seems to enjoy this. I think he's going to work hard. I think he wants this to be good. And, Clark went to the Stardom show at Korakuen and did the angle.
Twice.
He seems into it. He wants to do it. So at least we're going to get effort here. We're not going to get T-shirt Taichi, such as it is.
That's true. What I mean? That's true. You will get effort. And that's the hope. Hopefully that's the upside.
And that's what we're going to get in the next one. And here you go. So to me, this is probably the best match on the card. Almost certainly, really. So we have the IWGP title, Mayu Iwatani defending against Momo Watanabe. I have been banging the drum for Momo Watanabe for a long time. I think she's fantastic. I love her attitude. I love the heel The little sneer she does right there. It's just that she's got the best attitude. She's a terrific worker. Mayu, one of the greatest of all time, might end up being the greatest of all time. Scott already thinks she is. So, again, what can go wrong here, Scott? Not a lot, right?
This match is a very emotional one for me. This is the match. These are the two that really kept me into Stardom. I started watching Stardom because of EO. I stayed because of these two. Going through the years, it was always these two. Their matches through the years have been, I think I'd argue, they're the most consistent duo in the history of Stardom. You put them in a match, they're going to deliver. It's just what they do. And it's an emotional match for me because, you know, there is a reality this could be the last time that they ever go one-on-one. And that's just something I've realized. I realized it when they wrestled in the 5-star and they had a great match. I'll realize it again here. Like, there is a real possibility this is the last time these two face off. And they have had title match after title match, tournament match after tournament match. Their tournament match from 2021 is one of the great Stardom matches of all time. It's a very special match for Stardom fans. It's old school Stardom at its very best. It is Mayu, Momo. You can't beat it. They're gonna go out there and try to steal the show because that's what Mayu does. That's what Momo does when she's on, and I know she's gonna be on for this match. There's no doubt in my mind. So
you can't write the history of Stardom without talking a lot about both of these women. I mean, certainly Mayu, of course. I mean, the very first Stardom show was her first match, for the love of God, and now she is one of the best that's ever done it. Momo has been woven through the fabric of a lot of critical moments in Stardom history. So the idea that it might possibly be the last one is a big deal. This is not to be overlooked. And sitting here right now, you know, November 14th, with a long ways to go and in a business that changes a lot, as you feel right now, Scott, can you put a percentage? What's your percentage feeling that Mayu Iwatani leaves Stardom?
Yeesh.
70.
Wow.
That's down from a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of time happens, you know. Like, there's been a lot, and they have went out of their way to keep pushing her, and now I think it's all just to lose to Tam in the end, so it doesn't matter.
It always is to lose to Tam.
It always is. It always is. And listen, that's their biggest story. That is their biggest thing. So I get it. But right now, I'd say 70. It's still very high, but I don't know. It's been weird watching. You know, Mayu's been in and out. You could just tell. But when it's time to go and do her job, which is put on a great match, it's what she does the best. And you know, I think Mayu's in a very interesting spot. The most interesting spot. She is the most interesting name for me, obviously. Heading into the new year, I'm only at 70 because, again, so much time has happened. You just never know. But yeah, if you were to say if she leaves or not, I'd say yeah. You know, there's a lot of opportunity. The thing about her in Stardom is she is Stardom, but at the same time, she's done everything. So it's like, does she welcome a new challenge? Does she want to go back working for Rossi? All these things. I've seen people debate month after month, week after week. Oh, she's not going to go. She's going to go. She's not going to go.
That's why I asked you. But no, I watch Marigold because I have the Wrestle Universe thing, and I do watch Marigold. The thing that strikes me about Marigold is that it is either there is no real mid card in Marigold. And what I mean by that is you are either green as grass and starting and just getting your feet in the business, or you're one of the best in the world. Those are the only two people that are in, those are the only two types that are in Marigold. There's no one who's pretty good. There's no one who's okay. There are people who
a lot of those low ones, they're building up to be there, but it is very fresh.
And they'll get there. But some of them will, some won't. That's how this works, right? But we're not there yet. And it's probably going to take another year before we get anybody who's pretty good or someone who's okay, you know, like that type of mid-card level. So for Mayu to go over there, there's always the Utami match. There's always the possibility then that you can get, you know, Kyrie or Io, or, you know, we've seen where things like that can be worked out, and that's exciting. But part of it also has to be Mayu is like, oh God, do I have to just drag these people through matches? You know, I'm going to have to just drag these youngsters through matches for a while. And I don't know, she has a decision to make, and it's going to be a tough one, but she's one of the few absolute game changers. So,
yeah, I mean, I've said it before. If she does leave, based on this past year, I'm going to have very little reason to fully invest in Stardom anymore. So just because, like, I think if she leaves, it's like a domino effect. So you know, it'll be interesting. There's a lot of challenges for her, whether she stays or leaves. It's just hard for me based on, you just saw it emotionally on her face and how she reacted at that time last year. There's healing, but it's also I forgive, but I don't forget. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, this time last year was all very, very fresh. It just happened, right? I mean, it didn't run. Yeah.
This time last year, all the madness was happening backstage, and we didn't know.
Yeah, true. Mayu knew.
It makes sense why Historic Crossover 2 didn't happen last year.
No, it was chaos back there. I mean, it was chaos.
What was the guy's name? What was the guy that ruined everything? Oh, I forget his name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Okada replaced.
Yeah, the guy. Yeah,
his name. He was the mess. He was the original mess.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but this match should be fantastic. This match to me is the reason I'm watching this show. I can't watch it live because I'm going on a small trip, but when I do watch it, I'm going to be very invested. And yeah, everyone's in for a treat. That's what they do.
It's not last, but it's the main event to me. That's why I'm watching.
Yeah.
What is the main event, though?
We got Deathbeat back.
Desperado's return to the ring. Thank goodness.
He was never going to miss this opportunity.
No.
Negative Ghost Rider.
He and Starlight Kid are tight. They're buddies. And so they are teaming up, of course. Starlight Kid, El Desperado, who combined for one of the great masks of all time, the hybrid El Desperado Starlight Kid mask last time at Historic Crossover. They are taking on Micah, who has gotten a strong push with Stardom over the last couple of years. She got the run as the world champion, a little unexpected. She got a little bit of momentum behind her, and they went with it for a while. And Micah is teaming with Zack Sabre Jr. So we'll have the IWGP champ and Micah against Starlight Kid and Desperado. And not a lot of storyline in this one. I mean, Starlight and Micah aren't feuding. There's no belt on the line here. Same thing with Desperado and Zack. But four people who are very capable of putting on a good match. It's weird to have this as the main event when you're getting Mayu and Momo, but here we are.
Yeah. This is the Bushiroad new hand-picked aces of the company on one team. It's the G1 winner, the 5-star winner. Mm-hmm. They have decided since the end of last year, Micah's who they want to go with. Obviously, Zack is now your IWGP World Champion. They've given him the ball to run with. And then on the other side,
Desperado won Super Juniors as well, so that's another tournament winner in there too. Sorry.
And then on the other side is, the most popular duo. Like, they are very popular together. They're very popular apart. It makes all the sense in the world. Truthfully, I understand why this is the main event. You wanted New Japan Stardom in that main event together. If you weren't going to put a New Japan title match on here, this was the follow through. This is the first match announced, of course. Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun main event.
And they're all going to work hard also. I mean, these are all four people here who want this to be good. And so
yeah. I mean, Desperado and Starlight Kid doing some tag team moves, that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I throws Kid onto Micah for Hurricanrana and stuff like that. That'll be fun.
And Micah is one of the types who can't have physical. Like I said, I didn't like what was done with her and Tanahashi a couple of years ago, but it's not crazy to have some physicality with Micah and one of the guys in there too. I mean, that's fine. Especially Desperado, a junior heavyweight, might work out fairly well. And they'll come up with some clever stuff with that, I'm sure.
They will. Desperado's show that he did earlier this year. Mm-hmm. He wrestled against Starlight Kid because that was the only opportunity to ever get to do it.
Yes.
And they had, the crowd was going crazy. He just played heel against her, which was great. because the crowd was going crazy for her. He was like, I know what to do here. And it's very simple work. I think him and Micah can do that with ease,
Yeah.
And Zach feels like the odd person out in kind of a way.
He does.
Oddly enough.
Yeah, he does.
Because I know Micah will do, she'll wrestle both of them. Zach's the IWGP World Champion.
Yeah.
So it's like interesting. But he was on this with Julia last time. So he has a connection there, obviously, to the show. This is clearly something he's been interested in doing, just based on him being in one of the actual featured intergender tags last time. So I think that's cool. And I like to see. I can always tell who's into it and who's not. These two I know are into the Stardom New Japan aspect. It's very funny though, we're running the show with Ospreay gone because he was the most into it all and he just didn't ever get to do it. He had to fight Shota instead. So
that's right.
In a way I feel bad for him. Because I know he always wanted to team with Azumi, funny enough. Azumi and him versus Kidd and Desperado always made sense. It just never happened.
Yeah, that would have been a great match too. Yeah, that would have worked. Now, and now he's. I don't know if he and Alice Windsor are married or if they're just been in a long-term relationship. But she's one that been on some of these New Japan Strong shows and things. So, of course, he and B. Priestley had a really good match during the pandemic against each other. So, Will knows how to do stuff like that. It's a shame that he never got a chance to do one of these cards, though.
It is. But that is a historic crossover too, huh?
There you go.
It's a weird card.
Jeremy, you still with us?
I am still with you. I am getting something ready for later on. But we have World Tag League, don't we?
We do have World Tag League. So let's go over some of these here. So again, we'll go over the blocks here. A block, we have Bishamon. So that's Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi, who won like the last three, right?
They won 20. Yes, the last three.
All right, so that's of course they're going to be contenders in this one. They'll be up there. Kenta and Chase.
They're always going to be a contender at this rate with the lineage that they have in the tag team division. Yeah,
and Flaming Shark just mentioned one thing. He says some interesting stuff, but definitely not an amazing crossover card on paper. Yeah, we talked about that sometimes maybe a lot of the New Japan guys or New Japan as a whole might just not that into this one. They do have a lot to do this time of year. New Japan has a lot to get done, and they gave themselves more to do this year than most. With building up this dome card. So Chase Owens and Kenta is also going to be in Group A. Again, this is a team that's probably going to pick up a couple of wins, but I don't expect them to contend.
No.
Same with this one, though. This is Shota Umino and Tomoaki Honma. And Honma is obviously here to do the jobs in this one. They're going to protect Umino for the most part. But Shota and Honma, I think, are going to be also Rans in this one. And this is one of those teams where you're just like, well, we can't have Grizzled Young Veterans. We can't have West Coast Wrecking Crew. The issue is you wouldn't want either one of those teams coming over here and going, like 2-6 or 2-5, like this team is probably going to, maybe even 1-, whatever. But
about that.
Nah, I mean, that's what Honma is here for. He's here to do the jobs and other people to pick up.
Honma, I think it makes a lot more sense if Honma is there to lose the matches so Shota can't win the tournament. But they're much more they're in a much better position if they win a bunch of matches because Shota is on a run and he's actually like showing that he's like top level talent. And it's Honma that like for whatever reason loses them the matches, but them performing well is much more in their interest than if Shota loses like a geek.
Keep in mind, G1 winners and title challengers have been in World Tag League before, and it's mostly a please don't let me get hurt type of processional for them through this tournament. So we have seen it before where the main event guy, and they haven't really done much in the tournament because it's all about staying out of trouble out of that one. And just for God's sakes, before my main event, don't let me get injured.
You know what I mean? I just think he's going to have a few moments where he's just got to get that shine before Wrestle Kingdom.
I don't want to, pull my hamstring in front of 800 people in Kanagawa. So what's next? Jeff Cobb and Callum Newman. Different than Shota and Honma. I mean, Callum Newman's not at the Honma level. He's a little bit above that, but Newman's here to take some losses.
Yeah, I like this team. I thought it's interesting. I went back on this before. I love Jeff Cobb. I love everything that he does. I love his entire catalog of work, in all honesty. And then Callum Newman is going to be the great high flyer. It's actually going to be a really dynamic speed and strength tag team.
Yeah. Also in A block, we have Alex Zane and X. So we know it's not going to be Lance Archer. They mentioned that it's not him, which we like Monster Sauce for the most part. But I am curious to see who Alex Zane brings in. I like Alex, so I'm glad he's back.
Do you have any guesses?
I don't.
No, not really. And I haven't even heard rumors. So they've done a good job of keeping a lid on this for the most part. So, but I also don't expect the team to do a whole lot. I mean, I think they'll get some wins. I think they'll be middle of the pack. And they might even be one of those teams that's in contention toward the end. But you know how that goes. And sometimes it's like, oh, if they win their final match and they get a tiebreaker and all that stuff. But I don't see them advancing.
Do you think it's a guy that's regularly on New Japan shows, or do you think it's somebody from outside?
I think it'll probably be somebody we've seen before. I'm trying. I've been going over in my head who it might be, and
Yuji Nagata?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to find somebody that Archer would have been associated with, or something. I'm not sure. I'm really not.
I feel like a Yuji Nagata, somebody like that, might end up being who they just throw in there in the tag league and give him a run. You know, somebody with Zane can do his stuff, but their ceiling is pretty limited.
That's a lot of matches in a short period of time for Yuji these days. If you look at how Yuji works, that's a lot of matches in a short period.
I'm with you.
All right, whatever. Yota Tsuji and Shingo Takagi. Now, this is a team I think will do well in this tournament because they're going to protect them. These guys are both in big matches coming up at the Dome. So I don't see these guys necessarily winning, but I don't think they're going to take a lot of losses either. I think they're going to be in it because you don't want to have these guys getting pinned too much going into the big shows.
Do you know if it's 2 block winners advance or if it's just 1 block winner advance?
I think it's just the block winner advancing in the finals, I think.
These are the perfect team to be in it until the very last night, and then by sheer circumstance get, pushed out, and then the story keeps going. These guys are going to be great. They're going to pretty much carry the tournament on their back, if I had to guess.
And next we have Ryohei Iwa and Zack Sabre Jr. Now this is one that, Dunstan mentions. It seems like a way to have Shota and Zack in the same block so they can meet up one more time before the Dome here. But another team that you don't want to, I mean, certainly Zack isn't going to be taking losses on the way to the main event of the Dome. Oiwa can once or twice over there. But I think Bishamon, the LIJ team, and these guys, these are the ones that are going. This will be one of those have and have not blocks, and I think these are going to be the haves.
I'm with you. I'm on board with this team, and I think when we got to the tail end, I started to really get sold on this block of World Tag Team contenders. Scott, what thoughts do you have on this group so far?
Pretty good for World Tag League. I mean, you kind of go into it and you're like, yeah. It's tag league,
Yeah.
But like I think there could be some matches that I will, I'll look at social media the next morning and be like, oh, this match was awesome. And I'll be like, okay, I'll watch it because there's a lot of teams that have that effect, Yeah.
Yes.
And Flaming Shark mentions Oiwa and Zack is another team I'm excited to see. And he said, I'd be into Newman and Cobb having a tag title run in a year or so, given the occasional random teams that win them. Wouldn't be necessarily a bad idea. And then Dunstan said the big problem with this tag league is that too many teams are not going to win since most of them have plans for Wrestle Kingdom already. And Dunstan, that's exactly what I was looking at when I was trying to figure out who was going to come out of this block. We mentioned the teams that clearly have someone there to do the jobs. Honma, Newman. I like Newman, but he's probably there they're going to get some wins. Chase Owens and Kenta, same thing. They're going to get some wins. Alex Zane and X, it depends on who X is. But, what I keep looking at there, and Gabe Kidd and Sonata, by the way, we didn't mention that. So Gabe Kidd and Sonata are in positions where they don't necessarily have to be totally protected, but who has no plans for the Dome? Well, Zack and Oiwa, they're not going to win this thing. They're busy. Shingo and Tsuji, they're busy. We mentioned that Umino's in a tag team that's not going to win it. So, nothing for Bishamon. And I do see Bishamon kind of coming out of this block again. It's just that team that is, I'm not saying they're going to win the entire tournament, but I can see Bishamon coming out of the block here just because those guys just don't have anything.
Veteran status, know the game. There's a whole lot of reasons why they're a likely team to win the block.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'm going to add about this block is I've seen some clips of Sonata in Bullet Club with bleached hair and the personality, and I'm in love with it. I am absolutely here for it.
Well,
you know, I see so far.
They're certainly not going to beat him because he's the hot new heel right now. So, and Kidd's one of those guys that can take losses because, you know, he can say that his temper got the best of him, or he, you know, loses his mind and gets DQ'd or counted out because he forgets that he's, you know, fighting in a wrestling match and needs to be in the ring. There are ways to beat this team without beating them. And so I think
team to think of like 3 months ago. I said hilarious team to think of just like 3 months ago. Be like, excuse me, what happened?
That's true.
I've decided Sonata only turned heel because he wanted to be blonde again.
What's his fake Jake Lee?
I was going to say this is clearly just Jake Lee's spot that they put Sonata in. So I mean,
he's got to be really hurt. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, because they're not even mentioning his name. The poor guy. I just, you know, just to go into a big spot like that and then get hurt that bad that quickly.
I can see Sonata throwing some matches out of indifference to show that he's a different character too. So a couple of the matches just kind of Sonata's like, no, I don't care. I'm out. Bye. You know, I can see that out of it.
Or just choking somebody outside and getting double count out or something like that.
Just beating somebody to hell at a Paradise Lock. And getting it all shut down. All right, let's get to the other block and then take this thing home.
It's an interesting question what they'll do with the Paradise Lock. We'll talk about this in future episodes. The Paradise Lock is such a babyface move, and I'll be curious to see what they do with that. If he does it and just turns into something vicious and horrible, or if he stops doing it. On the other side, we have the World Tag Team Champions, Great-O-Khan and Hanare. So they won't job these guys out. They'll at least be involved until the very end.
All right. What else we got? Who else we got?
We have Taichi and Takamichi Noku, which is the Shota Umino and Tomoaki Honma of the B Block. And we love Takamichi Noku, but we know what he's there for. He's going to take the losses.
I'm going to say it right now. This could be a dark horse team just because they need to get Taichi over a little bit.
That's a really dark horse, Jeremy. That is a really dark horse. On the other side, we have TMDK, who I'm curious to see what they do here because they've basically painted these guys into a corner. They've lost both their championships in 2 different matches, jobbed them twice to one team that's not even in this tournament. So are they coming in just pissed off and they're going to steamroll through this thing and win it? Or is this the fall of TMDK, so to speak?
I think their climb back might be a little bit longer than this, but if they take quick reclimb, it could totally work too.
I would not be surprised if this is the team where they do the thing where they lose the first 2 matches and then go on a winning streak.
Oh, sure. Yeah, 1,000%.
Here's a team that I think is going. Now, here's the other question: is this team going to do great or is it going to do terribly? We have Hiromu Takahashi and Tetsuya Naito. So, will they do poorly and not get along as a team? You could go the other way and have them win the damn thing. And this is really a feast or famine for these guys, and there's storylines in either direction.
I think you have them win the whole thing.
Scott.
They have to be facing each other at Wrestle Kingdom. That show needs it. So it needs to they need to blow up somehow.
Yeah. And hopefully Naito returns from once again his arm has been chopped off, similar to what happened to Great-O-Khan and Suzu Suzuki, as you can see. Another tragic accident in the New Japan dojo. We need to watch out.
All I gotta say is that when the Super Junior Tag League ended, the winners of the tag division, the winners of the whole thing, like they didn't get their one-on-one match. It basically turned into this whole other like schlemiel. So why don't the World Tag League at the very end of it, like we won, but actually I want to face you. Like at some point,
I could actually see Hiromu doing that. I could see Naito and Hiromu doing that. Just like saying, "Oh, we get any match we want."
Yeah, we want.
I know.
Like Naito's basically like, if we win this whole thing, I'll wrestle you. And then Hiromu's like motivated to win the whole thing.
That's not bad. Could be. And it would actually make slightly more sense than the junior tag thing. So, all right, next. Hiromu Takahashi. Okay, no, not Hiromu Takahashi. This is Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jado.
Taking the place of ELP.
ELP, of course. Yeah, we do hope he recovers. And obviously the results would be a lot different if ELP were in this, but they don't put Jado over much. So I wouldn't expect them to here. So I don't think this team's going to do a whole lot in this tournament.
Definitely different tenor to their matches.
But it is a way to get him back into the ring with Evil. which is coming up later in this tournament. And then we have, this is a new tag. 12 of these teams, by the way, are first-time entrants in this tournament. And this is Tomei and Stevie Phillip. This is one of the Tamashii teams, and they are being brought over from Australia, an Australian tag team in World Tag League. And because they're on Tamashii, and Tamashii is not on New Japan World, I have not seen these guys a whole lot. So I'll be curious to see what they bring to the table.
They're very lean.
They are very lean. They're definitely cut.
They got into World Tag League before a number of strong teams.
You're right. And I'm going to guess that's a financial move. I have a feeling that these two that don't have a huge name probably work for a little bit less. And flights from Australia to Japan are cheaper than US. So.
That's true. That's a good point.
The economics of it all are
pretty sad story. Yeah, and then Toru Yano and Bolton Oleg here. So I don't think these guys are going to be totally jobbed out. I mean, I don't anticipate them winning the thing, but they take care of Bolton more than they take care of most. But I don't think they'll win. But I don't think this is going to be. I don't think they're going to finish last. Yeah, and they're 2/3 of the trios champs. So
I would like to think Bolton Oleg never, ever, ever is the one getting pinned in this. That would be nice.
I think you're probably right. But
I don't know.
There could be one. There could be one that he gets pinned, but I think
just protect him as much as you can.
I agree. You know? I'm with you on this.
He lost to Narita in the last one there. Or what was it? What was the show where he was in the 6-man tag and Narita beat him? Yeah. Speaking of which, we have Evil and Ren Narita. This is a team because now on the surface, this doesn't look like a team that's going to contend. They always have a Bullet Club or a War Dogs team threatened to win the whole thing. They always have one like right on the precipice. So I think this is a team that's going to be right in it with their, they'll lie, cheat, and steal to get a lot of points in this tournament
style.
Because they almost threaten us with, you see, you want that great match, we're not going to give it to you. We're going to give you the War Dogs. We're going to give you, or not War Dogs. They're good, but we're going to give you House of Torture instead. And then usually someone upends them just before they get to that point. But really, I still think this is a vehicle for getting Evil and Tanahashi into a match before the dome.
Got any other thoughts?
Yujiro got screwed. This is baloney. His tournament of the year, and he's not in it.
This is his time to shine, and they took the spotlight off.
This is his time to put in 20% that he's got left in his body, and he's not here. Unbelievable.
All right.
They're going to go far, though. They're going to be very protected, these two. They both have big matches.
Yes.
Couple of programming notes. We will not be here on Thanksgiving, but we do have pre-planned programming, a best of plan to upload that day if you miss us in both our audio and video feed. We're wrapping up today, but before we go, Scott, all your plugs, everything that you got going on, right after you finish doing what you're doing on the video screen, I'm going to pass the red off to you, and I think now you're ready.
You can follow me at Scott E Wrestling on Twitter or that Blue Sky thing that I'm still learning.
I tried to add you today, and it was an invalid handle. I'm like, boy, this site is being pushed to the limit.
Oh, I have an invalid handle too. That's awesome. I don't
happened for a brief while. That's why when I tagged the Blue Sky today, like you didn't get tagged because it just wouldn't recognize you, and I'm like, I don't understand what's happening, but I'm working with Blue Sky.
Yeah, it's a thing. I am there for now. We'll see how long it lasts. If you see what I put on Twitter, it's pretty much the same. But you can follow me on both. You'll have the 5-Star Joe Show coming out tomorrow here on the Fight Game Media Network feed, not channel. I don't do shows like that. I don't put my face on screen. Though I should have some clips up this week because Garrett told me I had to. Sorry, Jeremy.
You're fine.
It was a good show this week. We talked a lot of tag league. We talked a little historic crossover, though I told everyone I'd do most of the previewing here beyond the Mayu Momo match. I did go in a little bit more depth on that and their history. Talked about the big Marigold show from today, what they've set up, and so on and so forth. So if that interests you, go check that out. Otherwise, I got nothing left.
All right.
I'm out of gas too. Steven, do the rest.
Well, don't forget that the Power Bombshells will be back 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. This time it'll be Keela sitting in for Sam, teaming up with Mel to bring you all of that. So make sure you check out that Dynamite show, all those things here on the Fight Game Media Network. So with that in mind, historic crossover. World Tag League, that'll be beginning by the time we meet up with you next time. So we'll be talking about all of that and looking ahead to the rest of the tournament and any other news that comes out. So for Scott, for Jeremy, I'm Steven Conway. Thanks for spending your time with us here at the Fight Game Media Network. This has been Speaking of Strong Style. We'll talk to you again real soon.